Today is going to be a good one. We are doing a massive doubleheader on what else but the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders and just like that, like the reboot of Sex in the City. Today's episode is going to be equal parts petty. Yes, it will be petty. It will be enlightening. And as always, it's going to be a really big reflection of where we are in society today. And really, the question is, are we moving forward or are we moving backwards? So, we're going to do a deep dive analysis. I do not have pom poms in my house. Otherwise, I would have dressed up like Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, but I have the next best thing. I am wearing, and this is truly an outfit from Sex in the City. So Carrie Bradshaw, I had to look it up. It is the episode with David Duchovny. It's called Boy Interrupted in Sex in the City. Carrie Bradshaw wore this amazing Ella Moss dress. It's like this beautiful striped dress. And back when it was out, I bought it and I never wear it because I was afraid I would never fit into it again. But I am on a GLP-1 and miracles happen when you're on it. I'm on it for hormones. More on that later. But check this out. Cute, right? Anyway, so if you're watching on YouTube, that is what's going on. I'm wearing the Sex in the City dress. So there we have it. So let's dig into the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. So you may know if you followed any of this online. I imagine if you're tuning into this, you are probably somebody that has watched one or both of these shows. But Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders has had 16 seasons on the show called Making the Team. I forget what it was on, FX or something. It was on like, I don't even think it was on FX. It was on like a step 2 or 3 down from that. But it had a little bit of a cult following. Then it hits Netflix and it airs on Netflix for season 1 last year, became a massive smash hit and a massive conversation starter. And when it came out, it became glaringly obvious how antiquated, like honestly, when I thought about cheerleaders, I'm like, do they still have those? Is that still happening? And it felt weird, like post Me Too movement. It felt weird about like, I don't know, just cheering on guys and just, being objects of only desire. And that's it. And I guess, I'm not somebody who watches football or sports or cares at all about any sports teams really, except for the Yankees. But I don't even follow it anymore. But yeah, the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders are truly the number one. Now I'm a little more schooled on it. But in season 1, there was a ton of backlash. And the backlash really was because these girls who are magnificent, brilliant, like elite, the most elite athletes that could have ever athleted. I don't know if that's a word or not, but please start using it. Um, these women were grossly underpaid, like something like getting paid $15 an hour. Think about that. Think about how many millions of dollars each football player gets paid to sign on with the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. Yet the cheerleaders themselves, like their pictures and their images are broadcast on the outside of the stadium of Ford Field. I don't know if Ford Field is like the practice place where they have it, where AT&T Stadium is where the Dallas Cowboys play, but you have their images, their movements. It is the cheerleaders. Like they are their own brand. They're literally a separate business entity to the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. A lot goes into it. Millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars are being paid for it, but they are so grossly underpaying these beautiful women and then, essentially analyzing them up and down to pick apart every single potential flaw or anything that is out of place. So, what I noticed about season 2, so season 2 recently came out. I, as somebody who is a mom and is working full time and have kids at home, it is hard for me to like finish It's kind of funny because, like, am I watching this stuff as part of my job? And I guess I am. Part of this is content for, I do write off my subscriptions to a lot of my streaming services because I report on it a lot on this podcast and through my blog and my emails and through all of that. It is kind of threaded through my business, but anyway, all that to say, it just takes me a little too long, which is why this is coming out so much later. I have to like finish it and like put it together and do all that stuff. So hopefully you guys have not already forgotten about it and are not skipping this episode because you're moving on to something else. But we are in the midst of And Just Like That. So, at the time of this recording, episode 6 of season 3 of And Just Like That has come out. In season 2, what I have noticed is that season 2 is I think they are carefully more PR'd than season 1, meaning I believe, I don't know if much has terribly or dramatically changed with the fundamentals of how this organization works, where these women are highly underpaid, overworked, a lot of status, a lot of gaslighting, a lot of picking apart body image, hair, makeup, their looks, all of these things, which we'll kind of get into. But it is a rough go, like, are you paying $15 an hour for these incredible women that are working 2, 3, 4, sometimes jobs outside of this just to pay their rent and pay their bills and make ends meet? But they have the status and the notoriety and certainly the visibility and awareness of being one of the top teams in the world, right? And so a lot of them are busting their butts. They are trying to figure out how to pay rent, how to put food on their table. And in season 2, I have noticed that Kelly Finglass, who is the director, she's like the lead person. So it's Kelly Finglass and Judy Trammell. Judy Trammell is the lead choreographer. She's been the choreographer for 40 years. So they are more mature women, right? Like both of them were ex Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. So they certainly know it, live it, breathe it. But I noticed that they are positioned or it was edited in a way that's way more empathetic than it was in previous seasons, or at least in season 1. I have not seen Making the Team, but at the end of this, hopefully it's not a spoiler. If it is, if you haven't seen it and you want to, just skip ahead like a minute. The girls got a 400% raise, but we're still not sure. I was trying to find out, but we're still not sure if that is, like a lot of these girls get paid for appearances. It's not just the rehearsal time and the time on the field during the games. They are being contracted out for PR appearances, for opportunities to, like perform at local charities and all kinds of things. So they do get a lot of opportunities there, but not everybody is picked for those, right? And there are 36 girls on the squad. And so who knows how that scale works? And even if it is, if you're getting paid $75, wait, no, $60 an hour versus 15, I mean, okay, but still, and I don't know if that's just for the hourly wage, not including any of the appearances. So I don't know that it's going to make as much of a difference as one would hope. Like they can't leave their jobs, right? And the kind of gaslighting that you hear kind of throughout this, which is really interesting, is that they're always positioned as, hey, these girls are working full-time jobs. They are unable to pay their rent, like they're working so hard where they're coming here at 5 or 6 at night, and then they're working sometimes till 10, 11, 12, 1 in the morning, and then again and again and again and again every night, right? So it's interesting to see what will happen. I think it's progress, and I think that it will have a ripple effect through sports organization specifically for women throughout the nation, having the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders as truly the leader in that. Um, if you saw, you noticed they get a lot of free stuff. And there was like, it was somewhere in the season where it was really weird, where you see like they're getting free Botox, they're getting free fillers, they're getting free hair treatments, skin treatments. They're getting tans, food, some other kinds of things. Would you think like, wow, that's freaking awesome to have your hair and makeup done all the time, right? Or have access to that. But it is kind of weird. Like they put them all in an auditorium, and then they had people or representatives from these companies like essentially pitch the free services that they're getting. And they'd have like these boring ass, slides and whatever. And maybe it was like a meal plan, or it was some sort of skin tightening treatment. And you could see they're all like trying to keep their eyes open. It was like boring ass PowerPoints, you know? But what about paying rent, right? Like they do get all of these. And again, that's progress, which is so crazy to me, because back when Kelly Finglass and Judy Trammell and in years past, they had to pay for all that stuff themselves. They had to figure out their own tanning, and sometimes it would be uneven. They would have to pay for their own hair and makeup and all of that. So I think it's they kind of shed some light on people that had struggled with eating disorders and body dysmorphia. And so they highlighted a girl that was on the team. Her name is Dayton, and she is the daughter of a former Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. Her name is Shelly Bramhall. So Shelly works now as the assistant choreographer on the team. And it was so weird how they positioned it, where she talked about, she was so like, the daughter, Dayton, was on thin ice the whole time. Like she just isn't doing enough. She's not as in it to win it as the others. Her kicks aren't high enough. She's not quite getting the choreography. So they're just picking her apart, picking her apart. And you wonder, like, her mom is the choreographer and has put so much pressure on her that every time she's performing, auditioning, whatever, her mom is like sitting there, and her mom, like in the interviews, is picking her daughter apart. And she's picking her daughter apart not only with people who are judging her, but with her daughter. You should have done this, you should have made this different, whatever. So, and this girl was like, yeah, when I was 18, when I tried out for the team, I really, that's when my anorexia or my bulimia started. And it's like, oh my God. So the concept with the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders is they are fitted for one uniform when they make the team, or when they are going through tryouts. They get an outfit fitting once. And that outfit, they only have one, right? They only have one they have multiple outfits, but the main cheerleading outfit, they are given one of those. They cannot keep them. And you see them that they're literally cleaning their own shorts with a toothbrush at night. Like imagine there's self tanner, there's sweat, there's all kinds of stuff that gets on it. Like you couldn't pay for dry cleaning for it. They're just busting their ass. They're getting home late at night and trying to like scrub out any sweat stains out of their shorts. But they are designed to only fit in that. The girls are never allowed to get bigger than that size, right? That is the size. So it's interesting that the uniforms, they are required to fit into the uniforms, not the uniforms required to fit into them. So it is kind of this weird juxtaposition of like everything at the sake of fitting in, of this particular look, right? And these women, these are athletes. These are the top of their game. They are beautiful. They're working their butts off. They are the best of the best of the best of the best. So it got me thinking about the uniformity of it all, that this is a 60-year-old organization, I think, 60-year-old organization. And so obviously I understand the need for perfection, for uniformity. Yet at the same time, they are admonished that you need to stand out more, but also be the same, right? They have to have those kick lines be all kind of the same height and the same body type so that it all looks perfect. And so just that quest for perfection is just, I can't imagine, like I imagine I was never an athlete, and in my 20s, I never did anything, but I never did anything physical really. Believe it or not, I didn't start working out till I was like in my early to mid 30s. It was probably mid 30s. And now I work out all the time, but in my 20s, there was so much people pleasing that went into, well, I'll just mold and shape and whatever you want. I want to get the job. I want to be the one that's picked. I want to, there's so much of like, you will get kicked off, right? Like you must conform to a certain standard of pleasingness for people to choose you, for you to fit in. There's so much conformity that happens within this, but also they are encouraged to stand out, but not too much, but stand out. So there's just this kind of narrow playing field, all puns intended, that they need to be in. And, I think about me in my 20s where I would just whatever would get me the job, whatever would get me picked, whatever way I needed to act that I wouldn't be displeasing, right? And I guess, like, we all have our own personalities, but there is an allure to fitting into society. It's what shapes us. I mean, certainly we are who we are. And, I've had certain constants, but I also have found so much of malleability that happens specifically when you are in your late teens, 20s, to try and fit into society and grow up in a way that is going to be pleasing. It's just kind of interesting. I think about Kelly Finglass, who is the I guess the head coach of it. She took a much more empathetic approach, at least. I don't know. I kind of feel like they would show her crying and tearing up more than they would in season 1, and I don't know that more has changed or it was just the positioning of the camera, right? But it made it hard not to love her. It made it hard not wait. Yeah, it made it hard not to love her because she was so empathetic and really had the hard conversations with the girls when she would have to let people go or cut them from the team or give them feedback or whatever. And then, you know, Judy Trammell, what I thought was interesting about Judy is that in these seasons, Judy is predominantly quiet. It's mainly Kelly. Judy is the head cheerleader. And Judy, and this time we got to hear a little bit of her backstory, which is really nice, that she was the one that did that famous choreographed dance to Thunderstruck was done by her. And she has been the head cheerleader, really the only one. There's a little bit of control issues that she never wants to let that go. I think she's in her late 60s. And I think Kelly Finglass might be in her early 60s. And she is really, really protective over that. So it was kind of nice to see hers. And then you have Jada. So Jada was like essentially one of the lead cheerleaders. She was one of the retiring people that she had kind of run her 5-year tenure with it. Usually, I think they have, if they are lucky enough to make the team 5 times in a row, I think 5 is like the usual life, or like what the life cycle is of a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, if they are lucky to get it, is 5 years. And Jada was such a great leader. She was so beautiful and so long and tall. She just looked gorgeous. And what I loved about Jada and kind of learning about the backstories of some of these girls is that she kind of had a little bit of a tough upbringing where dad was gone a lot. I think he struggled a lot with being in jail and substance abuse. And you could see that she had kind of taken on this leadership role of like this kind of calm, even. And she was one of the people that had fought to get the raises. Like there were several of usually the tenured or more seasoned cheerleaders that had fought to get the pay raise and saying the whole world is doing TikToks on Thunderstruck, on the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. All the Reddits are, like firing up of like, you need to pay her more. All of the news outlets are saying you need to pay them more. And so they were considering staging a walkout and saying, we're not going to sign the contracts unless you pay us more. And, Judy and Kelly, the heads were like, "Hey, you got to like bring this to people that aren't us. Like this is not the level that we have authority to do it and we agree." And so I think the Dallas Cowboys had found out about it and then it was kind of like shelved of like, "Hey, we can't do anything right now." But at the very end, they had announced that they had gotten that. So I love the leadership from Jada. I loved Armani. So Armani is this woman who has alopecia, and she has been cheering on the squad for many years. I thought this was really historic because she is a woman of color. And because of her alopecia, she completely went bald. And so they talked a lot about black girl hair in this, which I loved. I love that they have people that are specifically catering to texture to hair instead of just making them look like every other white girl on it, right? And so they were really kind of embracing that. And, she was getting fitted for wigs, and that's what she typically would wear. And then one of the games, she decided to go completely bald. And it was so beautiful with her cute little bald head running out there, just changing the game, right? So beautiful, so proud. I couldn't imagine what it feels like to be on this team that is so predicated on image and perfection, to really buck that trend and truly embrace who she is and be a pillar of an example for people that and around awareness around alopecia. I thought that was really, really beautiful. I did find some really cool fun facts that so I have been telling my daughter is 10, I'm like, honey, I'm going to try out for the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. And she's like, no, you're not, mom. You're like old. You're like 50. These girls are like 20. They're not going to take you. And I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try out. So we keep having these conversations. And she's like, stop lying to me, mom. I don't want to move to Dallas. What I found out is that the oldest cheerleader to ever be on the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders was 35 years old. Her name was Linda Badami. I think that was it. And this was in 1995. So not only was she able to make the team at 35, she was a mom of four children, 35 years old. She cheered. She retired at 37. And then I found out the oldest to try out is 55 years old. And she actually made it to tryouts. She is like a badass grandmother, 55 years old. She looks beautiful. I found her on TikTok, but she didn't make the team, but I love it. So there are a few things I thought were kind of funny about the season is that all the girls eat like total shit. They're like chowing down Taco Bell. There's everything. It's like fried whatever, just piling pizza in their face, trying to get it in their mouths or whatever, just running and gunning all the time. I thought it was hilarious how poorly they all eat, right? And maybe that's just because of their bodies or whatever, but they're also held to such high standards with it too. And then, like, I don't know. A lot of people took issue with the requirement that when Judy or Kelly talks to any of the girls, the proper answer is only yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You're not really encouraged to challenge anything. And I don't know that I have a problem with ma'am. Some people think it is condescending in a lot of ways. I don't know that I feel that way, but I wonder what you think. Do you feel like the yes ma'am thing as a requirement is a sign of respect? Is it an old school kind of, you know, antiquated kind of thing? Or do they deserve more leverage? I don't know. Like everything was kind of designed to fall in line, but also stand out. It was just kind of confusing. A lot of people pleasing. And, I thought a lot about, do you peak at 25? So a lot of the girls would get on the team at 20, 25, 26, 27. They're done if they're lucky enough to have the full tenure and make the team all 5 years in a row. How do you stay? And I thought it was kind of annoying how Judy and Kelly would kind of gaslight them when they would complain about lower pay or not being able to pay their rent and like overworking, like working them like dogs. And a lot of them would be falling asleep on the bus rides and those kind of things, and they're working round the clock, truly. And again, it is for a season, right? Like, and I think that's the mentality. Like, it's the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. Of course, we're going to do it. It's not going to be forever. This is a chance of a lifetime. But the gaslighting part that was annoying for me to hear is like, well, it is an honor to be on this team. We don't need to pay them. You should be just proud to represent this team. And there are a zillion other people that'll take your place. And then when people would say, well, so and so, like they have full-time jobs, and they're like, that's what makes them so impressive because they are so accomplished. It almost felt a little gaslighty to me, you know? So I don't know. I loved season 2. There was a lot more drama, I think, between the girls. Chandy, who ended up kind of taking a break from the team. It was really sad to see that she had struggled with abuse and with harassment from an ex-boyfriend, and made some poor decisions while all the girls were on vacation. And it made me really think about people who struggle and have trauma, of like, how do you kind of navigate that in such a high profile position? And do you have emotional support? Is there mental support to help the girls as well kind of manage this high pressure, but also like keeping the girls in check around their body image and their image in general and the need to look a certain way? I mean, I don't know. I love hair and makeup. I love, I've got Carrie Bradshaw hair right now. Just kind of going with the fro. Um, and normally I prefer to have it like all smoothed out and styled and wavy and whatever. And sometimes I just have to let it go and let it be okay. But my goodness, in my 20s and even now, like how the appearances, how you show up means an awful lot, and an awful lot to how people perceive you and the number of opportunities. Like all the data shows that the more attractive you are, the more opportunities you are afforded, and that and the more you're paid. It's really interesting with that. So I'm going to close up shop on Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. I'm really, really interested to hear what you think. And even just, I'm interested to hear what your opinions are on it. You can DM me at Allison__hair at on Instagram, and of course it'll be on in the show notes as well. But I also wanted to take this opportunity before we jump into another form of ageism, another form of like image, and just like that, I wanted to remind you that if you are somebody wanting to sound off on your own ideas. Maybe you want to have your own show, your own podcast. Maybe you want to be petty like I am, or serious like I also am, or make some serious impact through podcasting, whether it is to grow your business, your influence, your opportunity to make an impact and connect with other people. I am offering a free clarity call to discuss your personal brand or your potential podcast. So you can grab a spot at AllisonHair.com/free call. I've opened up a few spots. My schedule is a little bit wilder than normal during the summer for some reason, but I want to make sure I make time for you. So let's get your brilliance out into the world with one of the most powerful business and personal assets you can possibly have, and that is your podcast. All right, let's step into the world of Carrie Bradshaw. And just like that, it is such a fucking train wreck. This series, the dialogue, oh my God. Oh my God, we're going to get so petty here. Obviously, Sex and the City is the best series ever. It was so iconic and perfect. It's kind of like Seinfeld. You can tell somebody about any scene in Seinfeld and it's funny. You don't have to see it. And in fact, I didn't even watch a lot of Seinfeld. But whenever somebody would tell me, did you hear that line, or George Costanza when he said, I'm out, and he would leave on a high and everything. So if somebody laughed, right? Somebody laughed, George Costanza, he made somebody laugh, he would just leave. He would leave the room because he didn't want people to, like leave on a low. And so all of it is always funny that it translates, but you remember it. You remember every episode, right? You remember the sponge episode with Elaine. The same thing goes for Sex in the City, that you remember the salad dressing on the chin guy, right? Or the up the butt guy. Sex in the City. You remember it because it was so visceral as well. And like Sex in the City, my goodness. I remember, even for me, like in 2004 or so, I think it ended in 2006. I was so moved by the show. And at the time I was in a relationship with a boyfriend who was freaking awesome. But we were together for 4 years and it was coming to an end, and at the time Sex and the City was out. And I felt like I was Carrie Bradshaw. And I felt like this show was so inspiring to dress up, to make dating exciting, and that everyone had these kind of stories. And obviously Sex and the City was such iconic stories that people weren't talking about out loud. Obviously the character of Samantha being so boldly, unapologetically sexual, and all the girls, right? Like they weren't as precious about sex. They were just talking about it. It was such a groundbreaking show. And so having the movies and kind of at various levels of success or appreciation for it. And just like that comes out 20 years later, 20 something years later, I thought, wow, I can't wait. What happens to Big? What happens to Aiden? What happens to Carrie? What happens to all the girls? And I remember watching season 1, and I thought like episode 1 and 2 were really painful. But then obviously Big dying was like, right? And then episode 5, it started to get its bearings about it. And then it went off the rails, like they were trying way too hard to be politically correct, to And obviously one of the criticisms of and Sex and the City was that there wasn't any diversity at all. There were no people of color. Wasn't really a range except for a random side character here and there around any diversity between white people, right? Like white women. And so, uh, but and just like that, like season 1 started to get its bearings. Season 2 is just terrible. But I watched every one. And then season 3, oh my God, like I'm just pissed. I'm so pissed at this show. I'm so pissed at what they did. So let's break down some of the elements. So, like the fashion, right? The fashion is really fun to watch, and it's fun to watch the behind the scenes. So, I'm following Danny and I forget the other costume designer. Before it was Patricia Field, right? She did all of the Sex and the City. One of her assistants that was with her from the beginning is doing, I wish I could remember her name. She's doing the fashion and costume design with another guy named Danny. Those two have an account around and just like that costumes on Instagram. So it's really fun to kind of see how they've sourced everything, how they put it all together. It's such a thing. And the behind the scenes is so interesting of how every single detail is thought about, whether it is the dress, the accessories, the hat, the watch, the jewelry, where it lays, what is paired with it. And obviously Carrie being somebody whose character is always going to have a very funky, quirky, kind of eclectic way of putting things there. But now these women are in their 50s, right? They're in their 50s. I thought it's really interesting, the ageism aspect of it. Like, I was watching it, my husband came in and he's like, he looks at the TV and he's like, wow, they've aged. And I'm like, yes. But we're all thinking that too, right? Like they aren't 25, how they looked 25 years ago, but man, they look damn good. All their hair looks beautiful. I don't see any alopecia or anything going on with their hair. Like every time I go wash my hair, are clumps that are just missing. Your hair just goes thinning as you get older. But that's not happening on this show. And I understand there's an element of fantasy, right? And so part of the fantasy is these incredibly rich clothing, right? This over the top clothing. And then they introduce the characters of LTW, Lisa Todd Wexley, who has these giant, chunky jewelry. Everything is over the top, these bright, vivid colors, which, girl, I love some bright, vivid colors for sure. I love it all. But God, her dialogue is so freaking cheesy, right? And in terms of the fashion, I'm just kind of tired of the fashion leading the way when the dialogue and the character development no longer matches it. So while the fashion is beautiful, it just feels really tone deaf. And then, like I feel like there's so much going on in the world right now where maybe the intention of Michael Patrick King, who is the executive producer and the writers of the show, maybe they're looking at the show to be designed as an escape from reality, but it just ends up feeling so tone deaf that everyone is like pretty much opulently wealthy and, concerned about things that people like me are just not concerned about, or feels like um, I feel so much less concerned about labels that I wear. You know, when I was in my 20s, I was really trapped, kind of caught in the trappings of wanting labels, because for me that signified wealth. And then I'm like, none of this, I don't care about any of this. And just the image perception aspect of the show just feels like it just feels so tone deaf. It feels so tone deaf with the character development. And when I think about the dialogue, so what made Sex and the City so clever and funny? And back then it really was that it was just this like super cheeky dialogue that was very quippy. They would use a lot of puns. They would be very funny. And that was very forward in the day. But now it just feels so surface. Like Anthony Marantino is constantly doing it, where I guess it's supposed to be like a comic relief, but it just feels like stupid. It feels that, it just feels void of character. Um, and, and not fun anymore. I think, there was an episode about Carrie, who now lives in this Gramercy Park. I think it's like a big brownstone. It's this super expensive, barely empty 1864 Gramercy Park. And every scene, she's in full designer clothes, walking around in these, like high end designer heels, strapped up her ankles in her own house. She's not going anywhere. She's just hanging out, writing in full regalia. And I'm like, what the fuck? Come on. And so there's this scene where she's just walking around, click, clack, in her own home. And I didn't realize that she had some grumpy old, not old, but like this semi good looking guy that is like a famous author holding himself up below her in the apartment below her brownstone or whatever, that it looks like a dump. It looks like a dark dump. And he is like mad at her because all he hears is her clacking around all day. And she is like, how dare you? I never take off my shoes. And I'm like, is this really what people care about in their 50s? I mean, I'm 50 years old and I'll take off some shoes. And so, where I think this is interesting is like the ageism aspect. So, on one hand, I would think that we, in our, I'm 50, I would think that we're talking about maybe deeper things and maybe not picking fights over keeping our shoes on in our own home instead of just being a selfish asshole. Like, you can't not walk around in heels and making a big deal of it. It just seems like, on one hand is like they say as you get older, you get more set in your ways. But listen, I have taken off my shoes. Like these are like 1 hour shoes when I'm in heels now. Like I'm looking for comfort. And I can't imagine at 57. And again, she's got a shoe line, but like, couldn't you invest your energy anywhere else? It just felt like stupid, right? And so I wonder about the set in your ways piece of like, I keep thinking, how can we go deeper? How can we make this more interesting? And I can't figure it out. You're certainly missing Samantha, but even when Samantha had, I think all of the characters really, when Samantha had like a cameo where she obviously is not filming with the other girls. Again, there's famously been a rift, but Samantha is like an asshole with these like weird quippy lines that just care about, oh, darling, where it just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like real life. And I think this is what is missing from the series. I think what's missing is that it feels like they're dripping with privilege and it's so over the top where it's turned these beloved human characters into out of touch, cringy, insufferable dicks. Like all of them are just a-holes. And I miss them. I miss the relatability. I miss the connections piece. I miss how relatable the characters were. And even Aiden now. So Aiden has come back. And I was an Aiden girl, man. I mean, I had a Mr. Big in my life. I guess yeah, I've had Aiden guys in my life too, but I had a Mr. Big. He was the worst. And yet you can't, like, he was so magnetic, right? And then the Aiden was just, oh. But now he feels super cringy too. The whole storyline just feels so out of touch that he's got a take care of his future mass murderer son. And like she's got to hold on and wait out for him for 5 years, and then she he cheats on her with his ex-wife accidentally, and she's like, "I get it. I get it. I'm fine with it." And I'm like, "What is going on?" So like the level of maturity, I don't know. I don't know what's happening with it. And I wonder, like, is there a lot of relatable TV out there for women in their 50s? I mean, the relatability aspects of this season, Lisa Todd Wexley's father dying, or somebody dealing with dementia or ailing parents, or Harry getting cancer. I mean, not that I want it to all be gloom and doom. And frankly, I find even hanging out, where the conversation is only about our sick parents or all that stuff. Like I have a narrowing capacity sometimes for it. And I know that doesn't sound very good, but I don't know. It just, I feel like, oh, they could do such a better job. They could do such a better job. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? I can't wait. I hope Carrie moves on from Aiden. And it sounds like she's got a little bit of a budding love affair with this grumpy writer guy, and a couple of things coming up. There's Charlotte, who is kind of the most normal, but like even more neurotic. Seema is like, we all know a Seema, somebody that feels like she's too good for everything, but, deeply struggles with self worth, but is overly confident. We all know people like that. But I don't know. I just wish there was, is the magic on? Is the magic on? So, am I going to abandon ship or still watch it? I'm going to watch every single one. And what's crazy is that I will listen to the podcast. There's a companion podcast that Michael Patrick King does. And I think that part kind of gives me a little hope that they're trying to build out these characters and why they made the decisions that they made. But this show sucks, man. And I'm going to still watch it. And I hate it. I hate it. Somebody help me. I'm going to watch every one. I'm going to follow it all, and I'm going to be pissed about it. I'm just going to hate watch, and I'm going to be okay with that. And I think the other thing too is the ageism around everyone looks great and everyone has money. And then I started to do some research, and this is going to blow your mind. So Archie Bunker, remember Archie Bunker, All in the Family? That dude looked like he was like 70. He was 48. 48 when they started filming. Fred Sanford, remember Sanford and Sons? He was 49. He was 49 playing a 65-year-old guy. George Jefferson, when he started, was 37. It's so different now. The Golden Girls were in their early 50s. Alice from the Brady Bunch, she was 43. And what I think is positive about the show is that these women look fantastic. They really are redefining what it looks like and having a spotlight on them. I just wish they would do a better job to like make it better, because generally speaking, women would just freaking vanish after a certain age. They were no longer considered viable. And I think even for me, my fear of disappearing into society is so great, which is why I'm always getting my hair done and Botox, and I color my hair every 4 weeks and all of those things. And you see people like Nicole Kidman and J-Lo and Gwen Stefani that seem to be frozen in time with how beautiful they look. And people that are aging, Christina Aguilera, and their faces are getting more and more fuller. Jessica Simpson, their lips are just out of control. I told you I'd be petty. And I don't know. Where does this leave us? How do we? I don't want to vanish into obscurity. And I want to be considered somebody that feels very virile and young and vibrant. But the clock marches on. And so the question is, Are we moving forward or are we moving backwards? And I'm so curious to get what you think. And I'm grateful for your ears today. I hope you tell me, I hope you share this with fellow Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders and just like that fans or people that are just interested in pop culture. So thanks.